Katie Britt has proposed legislation to ban project labor agreements on all federal construction projects. This is saying just taking it off the table completely. Project labor agreements are, they're kind of in the weeds, but it's worth understanding what they are. Project labor agreements are agreements between a developer and the local building trade unions, not saying it's only going to be union people on this job. No. Just setting the pay scale, setting a minimum for wages, working conditions, safety, and training, stuff like that on a job site. And so with that PLA, union and non-union contractors can bid from the work, right? They can bid from that work, and they can do it. They just have to pay union pay scales to do it. And so these are really important tools to make sure that construction work doesn't go to the lowest bidder, to the person who is going to be exploiting their workers the hardest, setting a fair playing field for union and non-union contractors to compete on. President Biden, during his administration, issued an executive order saying that all federal construction over $35 million has to have a project labor agreement. And so that's good. And it actually has not been revoked by the Trump administration. And yet, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of the Department of Defense, has issued an order saying that project labor agreements are barred on Department of Defense construction work. And so this has actually affected me, or like our community right here in Huntsville, where the Missile Defense Agency had new work that was going to create some 200-300 construction jobs, potentially. And they had already agreed to a project labor agreement with the local building trade unions. Again, not all of that work was going to go to union members, but it was going to all be at the union pay scale, okay? And actually, it was going to be, I was talking to the president, or I was talking to somebody in the building trades the other day, and they told me that actually a majority of the workers on that job were going to be non-union, but they would be paid at the union pay scale. Well, that project labor agreement has been torn up. They're going to have to completely rebid all of that work, and now it will likely go to non-union contractors. That can pay as little as that can pay down to the Davis-Bacon level of wages. And so the Davis-Bacon is a federal law that sets minimum wages on federal construction projects. And so I was talking to somebody in the iron workers, and they said that the Davis-Bacon pay for an iron worker in the area, the minimum is $18 an hour. And a union journeyman iron worker, their total compensation is something like $50 an hour, right? And so you could be literally looking at a situation where previously we were going to have 200 to 300 people from the community locally getting paid at a union pay scale, something like $50 an hour, total compensation, healthcare, retirement, pension, etc. To now you could be having non-union contractors coming from outside of the area, getting all of these 200 to 300 jobs, and paying literally half of what these folks would have gotten. Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate. And so this is just, it's really terrible what's happening with construction in the federal government right now. And Katie Britt wants to exacerbate it. Katie Britt wants to lower wages for construction workers. That would be the effect if her proposed legislation went into law. Katie Britt has proposed legislation to ban project labor agreements on all federal construction projects. This is saying just taking it off the table completely. And so this would lower wages for construction workers. No doubt about that. And of course, the non-union associated builders and contractors are celebrating it. They love this because they don't want to pay their construction workers very much money. And now, The good faith kind of argument for this is that, oh, well, project labor agreements, they cost more money. You just said that a union iron worker can make more than double what a non-union iron worker makes. So that means that, even if maybe I find it objectionable that they're paying iron workers so little, at least it's saving the taxpayer money. Well, that is contested, actually. And in fact, a new report out of the Illinois Economic Policy Institute just found that project labor agreements, not only do they not increase costs totally, they actually lower costs and they boost competition. The way that they do that is because by utilizing project labor agreements and by utilizing people who are paid the union standard, by utilizing people who have gotten the union level of education and safety training and things like this, you are less likely to have to go and rework. You are less likely to have accidents on the job, which cost money. You are less likely to go over schedule. You are less likely to go over budget. And so when you account for all of those cost-saving mechanisms, then you end up actually lowering the total cost of the project. There's also obviously studies that allege the opposite thing, but the consensus of the data is mixed, right? There is no consistent data showing that project labor agreements actually ultimately increase the cost to the taxpayer by any significant margin. Some studies say they cost a little bit more. Some studies say they cost a little bit less, whatever. But it's not that much money. And frankly, even if it did cost more money, 5, 10, 15% more, that is something that we should be okay with because this is our tax dollars. Our tax dollars should not fund a race to the bottom where we can have people being paid subpar wages while the CEOs of these fly-by-night non-union contractors rake in all of the excess money, right? Our taxpayer dollars should fund high road model employer labor. They should be setting the standard. They should be setting the standard for jobs in an industry. Anytime that tax dollars are used, we should not be looking for the cheapest thing that we can buy with tax dollars because we do not want to be a part of that incentive structure that leads to exploitation, that leads to deaths on the job, that leads to people not being able to, fund their students' college and things like that, right? Or fund their kids' college, I mean. And so there you go. Katie Britt wants to decrease construction worker wages in Alabama and across the country because she loves, she loves the non-union contractors. They donate a lot to her campaigns. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project. And you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.